Hey there folks, and welcome to this video. I'm going to quickly talk about the drama, and we'll say quickly as I can, surrounding GT Omega's Challenger Cup Season 2. And I can offer a unique insight into this one, because I'm actually a competitor in this series. A lot of these things to talk about, I know people who whatever. I'm actually competing in this, I've got lots of friends who are competing in it as well. So let's talk through it, let's establish what everybody probably knows, and let's talk about the other things that have been going on behind the scenes as well. So, what's been visible? The first round was this evening, and there are some technical delays that prevented the start of the qualifying, and then qualifying went through, then the race started, and all of a sudden, the first lap, everybody got disqualified. There was an attempt to restart the server, and then partway through quali, they postponed the event. Which isn't a good look for the launch of a series. Even if, especially because it's a second season event. And, I mean, I've competed in championships that are on Sim Racing GP before and on the Sim Grid. And this isn't representative of either of them. Though, people have been pointing out, of course, that they've done the transition across from Sim Racing GP to the Sim Grid. So, what happened? Well, I think we have to dial it back a bit before we get into that. So, the event itself had issues going into it from the get-go. The announcement had not been timed around the 1.9 update. The 1.9 update, for those of you who aren't aware, is a complete overhaul to the physics engine, and introduces 3 new cars: Ferrari 296, Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2, and Porsche 992 GT3. And yeah, that meant that quality got pushed back, and everything else got pushed back. When the quality setup went up, there were all kinds of other issues as well. For the first thing, the quality hot lap server was wet. When I say wet, it was wet enough that it was classed as greasy, which means that it's still dry enough that the dry tyres are generally quicker. And then when it got reset, it was on a fast track, which means there's no grip on the track. And then it got fixed again, so it was a regular qualifying server. And it's a similar kind of issue that we have for the race server. It started up today, and it was a solo driver event, there was no teams. Then the entry list that they had for the teams when they restarted it included everybody on the roster. So they restarted it again, especially because I think that one was set to just a practice server. And then we went into quali, and everything else unfolded after that. And there are a lot of people in the kind of pro side of this that are angry. And I think it speaks to, because I know people who competed in the first season who said there was issues with the organisational side of it as well then. The volumes of the issues that this is a series with a lot of prizing on offer, and while some of the major esports teams have taken part, others have just decided not to. I mean, for example, I don't think we have a BS Plus competition competing who won the last season. But, yeah. I think the issue that comes with this is the organisational side of things. And, look, all the best to these guys. They're trying their best to get something put together. But it feels like, for me, as somebody who's been involved in some of these organisations before and competed in these other endurance events, it feels like being organised by people who don't have an in-depth knowledge on how to run this kind of event in ACC. For example, the stint timers, it looks like they expected the colon separator to be hours and minutes rather than minutes and seconds, or hours, minutes, seconds, because that's what it was off by. Is off by a factor of 60. So yeah, that I think that's one of the first things I saw as the issue, because the argument was there was one mistake which kind of spitballed, and I think the mistake was that they weren't really familiar with how to run these things. And then, yeah, the communication was poor on it. There was an announcement channel that we couldn't see as competitors until the race was postponed, because the permissions on Discord hadn't been set up correctly. And then what happened next was that there was a lot of uproar in all of the chats that you could see, because things weren't going the way they should be. I mean, there was anger from the pros for a lot of it, because we didn't know what the weather conditions were going to be like, which in ACC is a standard procedure. You kind of know the variability or the chance of rain. But, I mean, every server I was in was dry, and there were some people who every server they were in was wet, and we didn't know what it was going to be. I think even the variability on the server was quite extreme, because you could see dry and wet and dry and wet and dry and wet. I know the season changes every 10 minutes in Britain. I mean, I'm a Brit, I'm in Britain. But it was extreme how often the weather was changing. It was every couple of minutes the weather would change. But a lot of this felt like things were snowballing and snowballing and snowballing, because if you look at the documents, the official documents, a lot of the deadlines are still wrong, and the dates are still wrong, and they haven't been updated. There are directories that lead to nowhere. For example, if you were streaming like I was, we were told you need to have a stream overlay on. You couldn't find it. And then when somebody said, I can't find this, they said, oh, don't worry about it. Things weren't really well organised. And it feels like people who were involved weren't experts in the game. And from my perspective, this is a company that's putting up a lot of money to do this. Like, I mean, sim racing communities I'm part of are mostly voluntary, and they can do things a bit more professionally than this in terms of the standards. But if you are being paid for it, there should be a higher quality of work that goes with it. I think the big worry I have is you see people complain about them on virtual. You see people complain about this and that with iRacing. Now, I don't think this is going to be on the same platform as, you know, PESC or, Virtual Le Mans. But it is on a platform. There'll be some people who are looking at this tonight and thinking, well, there's not much reason to be interested in this sim racing thing, is there? Because it just breaks. And we're lucky there's a lot of the sponsors for this series are people who are generally involved in sim racing. You know, I'm not expecting to see the sponsors just check out all of this. I'm not with the prize they put up for it. But, yeah. I think there are lessons to learn from this, and it's to be better, do better, and, well, make sure you're dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I think there are going to be lots of people very angry about this, but for me it's just, well, just a bit underwhelmed, really. Let's hope it gets better in a couple of weeks. Let's see where it goes from there. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you around. Bye for now.